Hi, John.
Hey, Alex.
Do you know what I hate?
What do you hate?
Panna witchy salatu?
Panna witchy salatu.
Panna witchy salatu.
What does that mean?
Roughly translated, it means some bullshit indigenous American belief system. Like, as in the thing they chant in the movie, the Manitou.
Oh, great Manitou, you say what you do. Oh, great Manitou, I'm praying to you.
So, John, let's get this straight here. This might be my first movie with Tony Curtis in it that I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
This is the guy they based Stoney Curtis from the Flintstones on.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, it's far-fetched.
He's very replaceable. Like, literally any human being could have done this role.
Well, I mean,
He brings nothing to this table.
I fully disagree. And also, this is way after Tony Curtis was Tony Curtis. You know what I mean? Like his career was waning. That's why he's in the Manitou. But watch him in. I honestly have never seen Spartacus, but
he's in Spartacus. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so I have seen him then. Yeah.
The Sweet Smell of Success. He's fantastic in that. He's okay, but he seemed like several people seems to be in a different movie than what this movie is. Although this movie tends to become a different movie at times.
Yeah. It's not even like I'm saying he did a bad job. It's just literally you could drop any single actor.
Yeah.
And just they'd be like, I was thinking Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs would be perfect for this. Craig T. Nelson. Like just literally just pick an actor.
Yeah.
It's a fucking Coach from Cheers. Ted Danson, anybody.
Well, at the beginning they start to make him a character, but then he basically becomes a Neil Gaiman protagonist that he ends up just kind of getting led around, and he's not really involved until the very end. He kind of was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I guess I'll do this."
Yes,
it would have been more interesting had he been more involved. But
yeah, he had jokes though. You know,
he did have
some funny lines. Yeah,
did have some wacky lines.
Yeah, he did it. So they pronounce this the Manitou. How do you pronounce it?
The Manitou.
Okay, so where I grew up. In the East Coast, a little town called Oakland, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. One of the elementary schools was called Manitou Elementary, but they pronounced it Manitou.
Did the Manitou have a Manitou? Because everything has a Manitou.
Yes, there was daily child slaughter. I mean, daily. There was this one particularly raucous spirit. It was the spirit of those kind of castle-looking playgrounds that, I mean, it just ripped kids to shreds. Mm-hmm. And the spirit of the janitor's bucket, 4 to 5 legs a month were destroyed by that thing.
Sounds sloppy.
Because they would put ghost water on the ground and then the kids would slip and hurt themselves.
So Manitous, as we learned in the movie, are spirits that basically everything has a Manitou. They were we talked about this during Totoro. There's a certain kind of... Yeah,
the kami.
Yeah. Kami, yeah. Is it a Manitou? That was my first thought watching it, is that it's just that. But that doesn't come into play till later. But that's what a Manitou is supposed to be anyway. In this, I don't know in real life, but what the real world version is, but in this movie it's that.
What's interesting about that, though, is this movie's called The Manitou. Mm-hmm. But there isn't one in the movie.
Well, there's several in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So having a definite article, makes it think that there's the Manitou. Mm-hmm. It'd be like if there's a movie, any given movie, and you called it The Human, and there's no aliens or anything in the movie. It's just it's just the human. Which one are we referring to here?
Well, they make it sound like the villain in question, the Misquamax, is the Manitou at the beginning.
Yeah,
they make it sound like that's but then it sort of unfolds and becomes no, everything's a Manitou if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean they should have called it the Misquamax or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, that would have been a better title, as we can't even say it right now.
Well, exactly. And at the end of the movie, instead of killing him with electricity, they could have him say his name backwards to send him back to the fifth dimension. Sorry, that's Mixlixpitalik.
The ending is the best part of this movie. I would not want to change that at all.
I mean, let's be fair. This movie is incredible. It is, other than there's a few spots that are horrifically boring. It was the 70s, so you just kind of have to expect that. But, man, when stuff was going on in the movie, stuff was fucking going on in this movie. And it was some bold choices.
It's wild.
To quickly set up, the movie opens with 2 doctors and they're discussing operating on a lady that's got a malignant, not like a malignant tumor. I mean, she's got a malignant.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the movie, she starts walking backwards and fighting crime. I forget how that movie worked.
Yeah, not very well. Yeah, she has a tumor on her neck, and you kind of find out that like, oh, we're trying all this stuff, and it's not working. I wrote the book on tumors, and it's beyond me. But man, it kind of seems like there's a fetus growing inside. Bum bum.
Yeah, that reveal scene is so great because it's like this guy's the foremost tumorologist, and he's stuck into his body, and there's this fucking poster on the wall that shows the stages of embryonic growth in humans, and you see him go like, "Huh, it does kind of look like that."
Like he was teaching a sex ed class in his office before the guy walked in. Like there's no reason for it to be there. But that's one of the many bold choices this movie makes. This movie was made by a guy named William Girdler, who sounds like a McDonald's villain. But he made this other kind of Exorcist ripoff called Abby. That's this like blaxploitation film with Carol Speed. It's supposed to be actually like really good and a lot of fun. I have not watched it yet, but I've had it highly recommended, and it's come up several times from different people. This one was that was an Exorcist ripoff, so much so that he got sued for it. But then this one is also it's a version of a novel written by a guy named Graham Masterson, which is kind of a lift of The Exorcist. And allegedly they bought the rights to this and like wrote the script in 3 days, which would make a lot of sense.
No, I don't think so. I mean, this movie is tight, if it's anything. I mean, it is airtight in its characters, its plotting.
Well, I saw a clip with the author who was like, they did a really good job. In fact, the book is pretty much verbatim. The movie's pretty much verbatim to the book, which I kind of got like a Garth Marenghi feeling from that guy. It's like, because they really captured how good I am at writing dialogue. It's like, okay.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about this movie, though? It looks terrific. Like the special effects in it are really nice. Mm-hmm. So it's like this had a budget, but it's like it didn't have a script. I mean, it had a script. It was the biggest budget Girdler had up until that point. It was the last movie he made because he died in a helicopter crash while scouting the Philippines for his next movie. So unfortunately, this is the last one because I want to watch all this guy's movies now because it's so weird. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be incredible.
I'm sure the other ones aren't great either, but this one had a certain panache.
Yeah, no, it made some decisions. It made some choices. So they're trying to remove Mulligan, and then we get introduced to our main character, Tony Curtis, who I don't know his name in the movie, and I'm just going to call him Tony Curtis. And also, don't tell me. I don't want to know his name in the movie. His name is Tony Curtis. I may call him Stony Curtis because I'm a big Flintstones fan. Mm-hmm. That's funny. I actually wrote a note here saying the Stony Curtis thing. I thought I just came up with that now.
Don't remember Tony Curtis. Note to self.
So, okay, we open with him giving a tarot reading to his rich... boring clientele. And for all intents and purposes, it sounds like he's a con man to open.
Yes.
Because he shuffles around, he takes off his fake mustache, which made me laugh out loud, goes back into his room, listens to groovy, like, disco funk music.
You cannot skip over the robe.
Oh, yeah. He has this wonderful robe that's got astrological symbols on it. It looks like a Halloween store, like Spirit Halloween wizard robe.
It looks like velour. And like with some gold inlet of like, these astrological symbols, and that is gonna be your Christmas present.
I need a ceremonial
like
robe.
like a snuggie of that. That would be pretty great. And he's wearing this ridiculous fake mustache. It looks ridiculous, but after he's done with his it's increasingly clear that this reading is nonsense. And as he's he's clearly just like trying to get the money from this old woman who's very excited to be there.
Well, his one line is hilarious, where he's like,
Thursday gas, indigestion, probably something that you're going to eat.
Yes. And when he finally gets her to leave, he turns off the spooky spiritual music and puts on some like total 70s funk, pours himself a wine glass of beer, and sits in a dentist chair to relax.
It is swank. But let's discuss his tarot thing here.
This is part of why I wanted you to watch it.
Yeah. But he's a hustler to begin with. But like, as the movie goes on, it's revealed that he's actually like believes in this stuff and is like an occultist of some variety.
Well, I don't know that I would agree with that because he's like making fun. He's presented with all this evidence by the end of like, here's this Native American demon, all this stuff. And he's still, when John Singing Rock gives him something for protection, he's like, oh, I thought it was seasoning. I don't know.
But when he meets his occult friend at the occult and bait shop that he goes to later,
when he meets the pirates,
yeah, he says to her, "You taught me everything I know." But it sounds like he was sincere. And also when he goes on the date with redhead lady, he gives her a tarot reading like he believes in it.
Yeah.
Which is, so I don't really know where to, I mean, it's not like it's a big deal. It's only the motivations of the main character. So we can probably just write it off.
Yeah. I mean, I basically just took it that he's a flim flam. Like he knows what it's supposed to be. He just doesn't believe in it and doesn't care that much because it's sort of a bigger deal when he's doing that tarot reading, because he gets a phone call from this woman, Karen,
Who's Malignant Lady. Yeah.
who's Malignant Lady. And they're apparently old flames. Actually, like he was her boss, which makes that even weirder. But she and him like get together, hang out. She is telling him about her condition because she doesn't know what else to do because science seems to have run out. She's got this apparently a fetus in her neck and she doesn't know what to do. And he's like, no, I'll just take it out. Don't worry about it. Hey, why don't we go have sex? That night, he tries to give her a reading he's like, just for fun, let's just give you a reading. And he keeps pulling out the same cards.
Which I have written down here because this is
I
my
was
next.
going to ask if you indeed did that.
My next annoyance here. First, I wanted to point out, because of these previous scenes, this movie's actually illegal in Florida now. Because she's trying
really?
to, yeah, because she left the state to try to get an abortion. So
Yeah, that's true.
he keeps pulling the tower, the moon, the devil, and death. Now, this is where the flim flam versus him believing it thing. Because you see him get thrown off by this, but death doesn't mean death.
Right.
It's probably the second most famous thing about the death card is that it doesn't mean death.
That's honestly the only thing I know about it.
Yeah. So like the tower, not a good card. That's like chaos. That's like the worst card. That's like your whole life is going into shit. All right. The moon, it can be like anxiety, but like oftentimes it's like, I don't know, like psychic stuff, intuition, like it's fine. The devil can sometimes be like pleasurable or like indulging in like doing coke, off a stripper's dick or whatever people do.
Debauchery.
Yeah, like it's not like this like terrible card. I mean, there's some stuff that's like, I don't know, like you getting dominated or whatever. But like it's not like a bad card. The death is like change or whatever. So it's the scary cards, except for the moon, which isn't. But it's just inexplicable for anybody that reads tarot. It's like it's an over dramatic thing that you'd go, oh, my deck's being like a drama queen, and just ignore it. There's that. So he doesn't know how to read tarot. But then he shuffles the deck completely, has her cut it, and then draws the same cards again.
Yes.
And he's freaked out. So he does believe?
I don't think he wants to believe. I think he's like, oh, that's too creepy. I don't like this. I don't like I don't like the idea that this could be real. I think in the minds of the filmmakers, well, and I don't want to go that far, but I think like for an audience in the 70s, let's just have people that don't really know tarot, that it might be just like, well, it happens at night. They fight a devil. Things get chaotic, and it happens in a tower in this hospital. So it's foretelling what's to come.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine with that. Because frankly, if I'm writing a tarot scene in anything, I tend to just ignore what tarot cards mean, and I'll use death to be death and stuff like because you just have to write for the squares. Like the seven people that watch it aren't gonna really. Yeah,
because I like later when the Mrs. Hers scene.
Oh yeah,
with
we
her
gotta wait for that.
Man, we are absolutely going to talk about that. That might be my favorite scene in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, so they go into a walk after they go to the Japanese gardens in San Francisco. They get wet. They go home. They put on bathrobes. Everything is just as cozy as 70s cozy can be. I mean, he just might as well break open a Miller Genuine Draft and have her rub his chest hair. It is cozy.
This is the second time, like within 20 minutes, where the seemingly non-diegetic music, like for the scene, Tony Curtis goes over and changes the music.
Yeah.
Because the spooky scene stuff at the beginning, it's like, okay, it's this like mystical kind of thing. No, it's me. It's funky stuff. And then later, like, there's a soundtrack playing while they're on their little date and talking. And when they're back at his house, he turns off the soundtrack and puts on a different song.
It's so weird.
I just wondered how often they were going to keep doing that.
Yeah. It's a weird runner. But yeah, they decide to go to sleep in his living room in front of the couch, in front of the fire. And while sleeping, she says the fateful words.
Banna. Witchy. Salatu.
I question the word witchy being in there. Like, why?
I think that's fair.
I mean, if you search for it, the first thing is, oh, okay, wait a second. Oh, no, okay. I thought I saw something that said translation, but it's talking about this stupid movie. People also ask, is the Manitou based on a true story?
Yeah, fact at the end, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, whatever. It just, why witchy? It's like, that's cheesy even for the late 70s.
Panna spooky Salitu.
Yeah, seriously. Goblin, black cat, cobwebs.
What could that mean?
Yeah. Who wrote this? Bobby Pickett? Yeah, so she gets witchy with her Ponyo salad tongs. Ponyo likes ham.
That's true.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with this movie. Yeah.
Well, there's a witch, and there's some Sala as well. So Panna witch, Sali too. So think about it, won't you? Thank you. But she's about to have surgery the next day. So he drops her off at surgery and mentions that, yeah, she was saying this. She's like, I don't know. It's not a big deal.
By the way, this is the most laid back approach to surgery ever.
Yeah. Well, it's the 70s. Everyone's mellow.
Yeah. They're just like, oh yeah, what did you do the night before surgery? Go get unprotected sex by some guy in his early 50s and drink some red wine, just show up when you want to. Do I need like a safe ride home? Nah, just have them leave. You can just take a cab.
Just wander onto the streetcar. It's all right. So she's on a surgery, and the doctor, this doctor's face, like, he has a very boyish face in this way that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like he's always looked like that. Not that he's still childlike, but he's just like, you're out of time. Your face is out of time, and I don't like it.
Yeah, he's got like Haley Joel Osment face.
Kind of, yeah. Like if you combined Peter Tork and Michael Nesmith for a more updated reference.
Yeah.
If you combine two of the monkeys. Anyway,
Rule 34, that shit.
He's gonna get rid of the tumor, excise the tumor, but then she wakes up and starts chanting, and he makes him cut his own hand with the scalpel. He
really underplays the psychological damage that would do on a person.
Yeah. Like a very like confident surgeon doing like what's essentially like you're just lopping off a thing on the back of this woman's neck. I know it seems weird what's inside it, but like it doesn't seem at this point, it doesn't seem like it's connected to her. You know what I mean? Like there's not really any danger to her. It really made it sound like.
Yeah. He's like
she was worried about
leading tumorologist. So this is totally normal for him.
But while this is happening, Tony Curtis can't possibly be there for his friend's surgery because he's got an important meeting with Mrs. Hers.
Yes.
The movie just takes a screeching halt and it's like, wait a minute, pulls the wheel hard left to get into Goofyville.
It's almost like he tagged in another director for the scene. Like it's like 4 rooms. Like he just walked to the next room and now it's Tarantino's like, here's early 90s Peter Jackson directed this sequence.
Yeah, because it's got a whole feel. The whole him and old ladies thing has a feel of the producers, and like Max Bialystock was basically like whoring himself out to old ladies to get funding for his plays and whatever. But this bizarre old woman comes in, Mrs. Hers. It just seems like it's going to be your regular, like the woman we saw at the beginning. He's just going to give her this reading, and she's complaining about her legs, whatever. So he sits her down in an armchair and goes over to the table, starts doing the tarot readings. And he's like, how are things going? And she immediately starts crying. And he just goes, shh. And then she shuts up.
Another evidence for him having some kind of magical powers.
I just think she's a goofy old woman is how I put it.
I mean, equally valid reading. Yeah, I'm not saying this is fact.
There's no evidence either way.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like this movie was written over 3 days.
Yeah. They're like, well, you know what? Just write the scene this way. We'll come back and finish it. Oh, we never went back and read it.
Yeah, because they make reference later. He's like, well, I believe some people and things can have a huge influence on other people. Where it's like, well, that was the thing you did earlier. Except you didn't actually connect any of those dots. You just said 2 things in the same movie.
Well, and then he asks her, he starts doing her reading, and he gives her several options. Because he says, do you want to do, I forget what it is, like Queen of Cups.
Yeah.
And she gives this big frowny, like, no.
So this is a misunderstanding of tarot. So what they're trying to do is a Celtic cross layout where the first card down represents the querent, the person, who the reading's about.
Okay.
So what he was saying is, well, tonight, do you want to be represented by the Queen of Swords, by the Queen of Hearts, by the Queen of Scepters? And she's like, Scepters sounds good. That's not how it works, but I think that's what was going on. I think he's basically just going, whatever, old lady, what kind of princess do you want to be to do this tarot reading? Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's how I took it. But I just wondered if there was any sort of like at all background to that, or if it was all just like flim-flammery.
I mean, there's other than
in the sense that he's just being a flim-flam guy and just being like, I'm making this up as I'm going along.
There very well could be. Tarot is so open to like just do whatever you want sometimes. So that very well could be another variant. But I'm pretty sure what they did in the 70s was one guy's aunt knew how to read tarot. And it's like, what do you got to do for these fucking tarot things? No. Just tell me over the phone. Okay, cool. I'm going to go make the movie.
Yeah. And like the pacing, the shooting of the scene, it's shot very silly. And I think it's supposed to be, even when it gets all serious, because she starts having, as the doctor is cutting his hand, as the stuff's happening in the hospital, Mrs. Hurst starts like, her eyes go back in her head and she starts saying, starts floating just a little bit off the ground and exits his apartment down the hallway and flings herself down the stairs. And it's amazing how it is done. It's just magical. Cause it's shot very silly. Like it's just the how it's cut together is played for laughs. And when she flings herself down the stairs, she doesn't just go down the stairs. She like goes into the banisters and is just knocking out the railings. It's
she just
wonderful.
Ruined a perfectly good set of railings. I mean, it is hilarious. And for some reason, there's a blood stain on the wall that has nothing to do with the scene we're watching.
Nope.
Did you notice that?
Which I don't, and I also don't know, like, was I supposed to be horrified by that? Because you totally just played it for laughs. Like, I'm not worried about how that old woman is doing because I think it's all very silly.
Yeah, and he also picks her up in a very, let me just move your neck over here way, which...
Boy, I'll tell you, watching a whole bunch of horror movies, that is de rigueur. That is, you gotta do that. Has someone suffered any kind of accident? Jiggle them around. Lift them up, shake them around. You got to. I picked it up every time.
Yeah.
So that's how we dealt with spinal injuries in the past, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was the 70s. They were pretty lax about things back then. So this causes Tony Curtis to go to Dr. Babyface, and they have this wonderful conversation near the world's coolest computer.
Yes.
Which it's in the background of all the scenes, and it turns out it actually comes into play later in the movie, which was a pleasant thing. But like, he's in front of this computer setup, which is just half a wall and like most of a table, and it's just monstrous with blinking lights, and it's the height of 1978 technology.
If you've ever seen Space Ghost Coast to Coast, imagine the thing that Moltar's standing in front of, basically. Or like, he's got this like nicely appointed medical library. In the middle of it is this interocitor. It's ridiculous. And yeah, it's very the 70s. They don't mention it at all in this scene. It's just Tony Curtis being mad that this is happening and somehow trying to connect it to Mrs. Hers. Because it's really just like a leap where all of a sudden he's there now. Yeah.
Because, he's like, I heard her say these words, and Mrs. Hurd said these words, so I'm going to talk to her oncologist about it, which is, they say at one point, he's like, well, what are you talking to me for? He's like, I don't know, I'm trying to save her life. Who the fuck else am I supposed to talk to?
Yeah.
And fair point.
But you could talk to her. What about that?
Well, no, because then the evil Quetzalcoatl in her neck is going to listen. You don't want to give away all your secrets. That's
true. Yeah, they bash heads about it because the doctor's not buying any of this. You're missing mumbo jumbo. I don't care about it. So, despondent, Harry Erskine, Tony Curtis, does what anyone would do. He goes down to the docks to visit a friend who might be his age, might be younger, might be older. No way to tell.
Yeah. The old tackle in a Colt shop. That's amazing. Here's something I didn't mention earlier, but what I like about movies from this vintage,
yes,
is you get to see middle-aged people act, which is you don't see anymore, really. Like, everybody's young and beautiful, and these are just kind of like regular-looking folk. I mean, I guess Tony Curtis was attractive when he was younger, but like, there's just like 35-year-olds,
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like, I know as much as I did enjoy like Colin Farrell in the new Batman, that should have just been a weird-looking guy. You didn't have to make up Colin Farrell. You could have just got it. I mean, even like Glenn Fleshly or whatever is could have played that part. But yeah, there were much better faces back then. A lot wider variety of looks. Yeah. The two people working at the bait shop / occult store are some guy that he has a fun. Tony Curtis fights with a lot of people in this movie. And even if he's not fighting, he's antagonistic towards them. So I guess that's supposed to be lovable.
Well, the amazing Erskine. How are the ladies? Amazing?
You're looking bad, Mackenzie.
Oh, thank you very much. The name's MacArthur.
Well, you're still looking bad, MacArthur.
Some guy, MacArthur, he calls him Mackenzie, who is married to a former mentor, Amelia. Yeah, who, like I said, like she could be older than him. She could be his age. She could be younger. I have no idea. This woman has that sort of 70s look of like, the way that like 80s teenagers look like they're 30. It's like, I have no idea how old you're supposed to be.
I had the same way with the lead lady. I'm like, she could be 45. She could be 26. Yeah. Like it's that 70s face. Like just people didn't know what moisturizer was yet.
Yeah. I mean, these are perfectly attractive people. I'm not knocking them, whatever. It's just, they are ageless in a way that doesn't mean eternally young. It just means like you could be any age whatsoever. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's back in the day that like this concept of adulthood existed, not just eternal youth and then you're a wizened crone.
Yeah.
So yeah, he goes and asks her for help, and as one does, she goes, "Yeah, I mean, I guess we could have a séance." And they're like, "Okay, this is great." So they go somewhere.
I think it's at her house. It's supposed to be at Karen's house.
It's at Karen's house, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's an inexplicably like Angela Lansbury lady shows up, and they don't explain where she comes from.
Yeah, it's just that she's going to be the seance lady. Amelia doesn't do much. She just is here for this and the Burgess Meredith scene, and then is like, well, that's it for me. Goodbye.
Yeah.
She just kind of stops being in the movie. But and this scene is actually cool. I like the seance scene a lot. For as kind of inexplicable it is, because they start doing a seance trying to conjure whatever this thing is, and from the middle of the table, this head arises like covered in oil, and the light's all green.
Yeah, they're at this like hexagonal table, and like it looks like black felt, but then yeah, this tar covered demon thing comes up, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
You know, if you take that tar top off, there's a sweet bumper pool table underneath.
It's foosball. The goalie's head looks like the evil black Manitou head, and he's like, it's a living. Wink. Movie ends.
But they look at it like, hey, that reminds me of something.
It reminded me of a wooden Indian statue. You know, the kind that stand outside of those old-time saloons.
Well, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
It looked like a guy. It looked like a guy that fell in a tar pit. Like there's nothing remotely like Native American looking about that.
They're like, all right, well, that went nowhere. What we should do, because if this thing looks like a cigar store Indian, basically, as this woman said, we should go talk to someone that might know something about it. So they go to see Dr. Snow.
Well, let's just stop right here.
Uh-huh.
Hey, who else likes snow?
Informer?
No, penguins.
Oh.
Burgess Meredith, Dr. Snow.
Dr. Snow.
Methinks I know what happened to the waddling prince of crime.
Mm-hmm.
After Batman 66 was canceled, he became an anthropologist and joined the Manitou.
I like the idea of he's made this name for himself. He's created this whole persona, and he's committing all these vile crimes. He's going to keep the populace of Gotham in his evil fist, and the cops just call him the waddling prince of crime.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so this is another scene where the movie's like, hey, guess what? We're a comedy again, because Burgess Meredith is playing this like a comedy. Because he's starting to talk to these people. People come in to his house, office, whatever, and he's not really buying them. And just like, I don't know, because while he's talking, they sit down. He just stops and go like, yeah, please have a seat. In this very like, it's almost like, I don't want to say vaudevillian, but that kind of old style comedy. But yeah, the whole scene again is played out for what's ostensibly supposed to be a lore dump, just the backstory of the Manitou and what it is, and the Native American magics. It's just goofy.
It really is. Burgess Meredith is delightful, and I'm always glad to see him in a movie. But this is this doesn't need to be in the movie, and the tone of it is just absent-minded. It's very strange. And then he's like, oh, I don't go into my attic very often. You're like, oh, is there going to be some Eldritch tome that's going to tell the secrets? It's like, no, he's just got like a dirty attic.
Yeah, and he's got another book up there that they have to go up to get for some reason, rather than have it just be right there. You know what I mean? Like what's gained from going up? Nothing. Like
if this movie were like an hour and 30 minutes, I'd be like, oh, they wanted to make an hour 30, so they left some padding in. But like, no, there's plenty of room to cut some stuff. It was just I guess they just paid for Burgess Meredith, so they just.
I guess yeah. Like we got Burgess Meredith for the day. Let's use him.
Yeah.
After this scene, Amelia is just gone from the movie because basically Dr. Snow just says, well, you know what you should do? There's one guy that still does medicine man stuff. Like there's still, I know a guy who still does around. Like I don't know any of this magic stuff.
Yeah, in South Dakota.
And
what a weird choice there too. Like,
yeah,
why? There are native groups in California. It's such a the whole thing is so weird.
No, I don't know British American, but this author was British. This author was speaking a British accent, so it could just be that he was in Britain at the time. I was like, I don't know, the Midwest is where this stuff is. I don't know. Just pay me.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes to this guy John Singing Rock, played by actor Michael Ansara, who was born in Syrian. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like one of the trivia about this movie was that he was like, well, I heard. I almost didn't take the job. I heard a full-blooded Native American was offered the role was turned down for the role, and I didn't really feel right doing it, but I needed the money. You didn't have to tell that story. Like, you know what? I almost did the right thing, but then I didn't. Thank you.
Anyway, my daughter accepted the Oscar for a certain actor.
I mean, and he's fine. It's just, it's offensive. But yeah, he's like, kind of lays down what Manitou.
Well, what you're dealing with is the Manitou, or spirit, of a great medicine man, possibly in his 4th or 5th reincarnation.
Is that bad?
For you, yes. Each time a Manitou lives, he gains in strength.
And he eventually agrees to help him. And by the way, the outfit that Tony Curtis is wearing in this scene is beautiful. Like leather jacket, shirt unbuttoned, like down to the navel.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Good 70s stuff.
Yeah.
But he eventually agrees. You gotta pay $100,000 to like the Native American Education Fund or something like that. But I want some tobacco. I'm running low.
I was confused with it because there's like tobacco is used in Indian ritual, like frequent, not Indian. God damn it. God, this fucking movie's got me saying it. In like Indigenous American ritual, tobacco is used as medicine. Like, so I was like, oh, is this, you have to refill your spirit bag or whatever. But like, no, he just literally needs a pack of ciggies. Like, it is a fucking weird beat, and it comes back later. It's baffling.
For whatever reason, I don't know who's got the $100,000.
Her aunt.
Her aunt. Okay. Oh, maybe that's who. Maybe is that who's doing the seance?
I think that's who's doing the seance, but they don't actually introduce her. Just at one point, they say we can get the money from her aunt. There was like a throwaway line at one point that I vaguely picked up on
because I missed it. This is where, and I think we're probably about like 45 minutes, if not more, into the movie. But this is where the movie starts to pick up steam. There's been a lot of groundwork laying, a lot of kind of Tony Curtis trying to figure stuff out. But
wait, let me just stop you right there. Sorry. Remember that point, because we just skipped one small thing that happened at the hospital before this, is that they try to remove the malignant.
Oh my God!
With a laser.
Skip this, yeah,
and the laser starts attacking everybody in the OR, and it is a rudimentary understanding of how lasers work at best. It is wonderful. A hilarious scene.
In my mind, Sam Raimi watched it and went, "Aha! This is what I'm going to do for Spider-Man 2." But it's
truth.
It's fantastic. Yeah, laser. I forgot about laser nightmare. But
anyway, you're saying,
So anyway, so they stand up, and so John Singing Rock starts. He's going to do some Native American magic, drawing a circle of salt around the bed. That kind of like ritualistic stuff I always get excited by, and I was hoping there was going to be a lot more of that. But then I remembered what movie I was watching. Because any sort of like ritual stuff is usually just him saying what he wants to happen. There's not like any like the magic words are like Manitou, get that guy. Which is not.
Oh, yeah. His like chant is like, I call on the Manitou of the wind. I call on the Manitou of the rock.
Yeah.
You know, like, could you at least say it in like an indigenous language? Like, just.
No, I did like that bit at the beginning when Tony Curtis first meets him, and it's like asking him for help. He's like, oh, but we need spirits. He's like,
mountain is good. Try wind. It's one of my favorites. Tell him John Singing Rock sent you.
He's totally like giving him the brush off, but in a way that's still like, I don't know, it didn't make it sound like he thought his stuff was stupid, but just like, you're so out of your depth, Tony Curtis. You have no idea what's going on. Yeah, so he makes this salt circle. I think at this point, Karen starts speaking with the Manitou's voice.
Yeah, and they figure out that
Misquamacus.
Yeah. That they figure out that that's him, the greatest medicine man of all. Another thing is, a lot of this movie is super racist. We should probably point out that like it's literally white people showing natives how their magic's supposed to work. It's really bad. But in this one here, John Falling Rock or whatever his name is, Singing Rock, he's a medicine man. Yeah. So for some reason, this other medicine man that's trying to invade this lady's back is like pure evil and trying to summon Satan, which doesn't make any sense because like medicine men are there to help people, like John Singing Rock.
Right. No, but
this is the greatest medicine man. It'd be like the greatest doctor of all time, Hitler. Like,
right. But it's like, think of it in terms of Dr. Mordred.
I'm listening.
Dr. Mordred and Cabal. Like they're both powerful sorcerers, but Cabal, bad guy. And this is basically how this movie wants to treat Native American medicine. This is basically sorcery.
Yeah.
And like any sorceries, there's good, there's white magic, and there's black magic. Mixmaster, as Tony Curtis calls him, Misquamacus, is is a bad sorcerer.
I guess, but I mean, fucking Falling Water says, I'm never going to get his name right, says he's the greatest medicine man ever. It's so weird. And by the way, people at home, I know you're listening being offended. That guy's not a real Native American. So I'm allowed to fuck up his name. I just want to point this out right here because I can feel the white rage building up in the audience at home. I am going to be flippant about his name because one, he's not a Native American, and two, I have a very bad memory and I keep forgetting his name.
You know, you talk about someone with great power turning evil. Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No, it's not something your Jedi Masters would tell me.
See, it's the same story. That's where they got it. Again, George Lucas saw the Manitou. Look in your heart, you know it to be true. Yeah, I don't know. He's a bad wizard. But like, I think we skipped over this too because like the way that when Burgess Meredith is giving his lore drop, that essentially a medicine man could become so powerful that he could impregnate himself and be reborn at any time. In the future or the past.
Yeah, and if you get reborn enough, you basically get to hang out with God.
Yeah, and so this is basically like what this medicine man has been doing. But I also like the idea that you're just like, yeah, I'm going to go back in time. Please shoot me in the head. But just like the way that he describes, I mean, we already covered it, but just the way that Dr. Snow describes Native American stuff is like, you don't know anything about it. Like, I talked to my racist uncle about the way Native Americans work, and then I wrote a book about that. Please praise me.
Dr. Snow, wait a second. That's an alias for that frozen bird, the penguin, Jiminy Chillikers.
the waddling prince of crime.
So this movie's building up, and we get one of the most hardcore weird scenes ever, and I think you know what scene I'm going to go with. Mm-hmm. The Tums don't work.
Yes, the Tums do not work.
Or Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah.
What the fuck was this scene, John?
I don't know. That's
audience
how you
at
know.
home. He goes to the nurse's station. He's like, hey, what's up, baby? And she's like, hey, you need anything to like calm you down? And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. So she roots around in a drawer and finds some Alka-Seltzer tablets. He drops them in the water. He's like, I need an extra water. I need 2 when I take these things. And then they don't fizz up. She's like, yeah, it's just not your day, huh? He's like, yeah, I guess not. Well, thanks anyway. And leaves. That's the entire scene.
Well, it shows you the Manitou is working. Like the evil power is building. If Alka-Seltzer won't work, what hope do you have?
You're saying the power of that Manitou is better than the power of the indigestion Manitou?
That's it. Yeah, he controls the indigestion Manitou.
Yeah,
he's able to.
What a fucking weird scene.
Yeah, because it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really like add. It's not like, oh, they said this would happen, that this would stop working, or you know what I mean. That like,
yeah,
any relief for anything could be. I don't know. Yeah, they just bail on it, and he comes back to a very awkwardly staged scene that again feels somewhat comedic, where he's walking by Karen's room and a bloody face just appears and flings its head through the window of the door.
Yes.
There's a body in the corner of the room, and John Snyder's like, yeah, no, he took his skin. And I think which is to mean he possessed him. How I took it.
Oh, I thought he literally took his skin.
See, because I can't tell, because like a little bit later, when that same body like gets up and is approaching them, like menacing them under the Manitou's control, he's got skin, and in fact, he looks like the orderly that's behind him. And I don't know if that's just like matching 1970s faces and haircuts, or if it was just like, no, I'm shapeshifting this guy for this extra layer of horror. Don't know. Completely didn't understand it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But yeah, it also doesn't really matter. So yeah, because Karen starts giving birth to the Manitou. He starts climbing out of the tumor in her neck, and they had mentioned earlier that the part of the reason that the laser mania happened is because the Manitou was able to feel pain, and at that stage, hitting it with a laser, like it would kill some cells. For you or me, no big deal, right? We got tons of cells. But when you're just like a fetus, that could be like a toe or a finger. So I don't know if he's supposed to be a little person because that happened, or if the Miscomachus is actually a little person, because it's like a dwarf comes out of the back of this neck.
The whole movie sets up that a fully grown medicine man comes out of somebody's back or somebody's arm or whatever. When a dwarf falls out with bad facial prosthetics, I mean, it's one of the dumber things I've ever seen. It's like Cake Hitler stupid. What the fuck was this movie thinking?
But I will say this, speaking of Cake Hitler, is that dwarf was caked up. He is dummy thick. You get a couple of side shots of the tuchus on that guy. he is packing some cheeks, my man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he looks great. There's no denying that. It's just a really, really strange thought.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the main thing that happens here. Sesquipedalia, the demon, he's trapped in the salt circle.
Mm-hmm.
So like anybody, you would think, oh, you know what we should do now is we'll put another orderly in there so he can nap. He's sleeping in front of the reincarnated form of an indigenous American demon wizard. And he's like, oh yeah, this is a good time to get some Z's. Like, I get the American healthcare system is overworked, but motherfucker, this is a bad idea. Also, why is John Peppercorn not in the room with him?
Yeah, the hospital is remarkably chill about all of this going on for a while.
Laid back as fuck. Like, orderlies are dying. There's blood everywhere. And they're like, whatever. What are you going to do?
Sit in there with them.
San Francisco in the 70s. There was some weird shit going on.
That is true. And I do like, though, that Misquamaka starts, like, parting the salt circle. I thought that was a neat little effect. Is it's like,
it's like iron filings.
Starts separating out. And at the doctor, Dr. Hughes, is like, well, I'm going to call the cops.
As I said, everything has a Manitou, not only trees, but man-made things as well.
Oh, please.
Now, the police will come with guns. Their guns have Manitous. Misquamacus will turn the guns against the police and kill them with their own weapons. Just like the scalpel was turned against you.
If everything else has a Manitou, like, basically the entire hospital should have been, like, turning against them. You know what I mean? Like, that window pane has a Manitou. That stapler has a Manitou. Now, he does specify later that, like, computers are, like, white man's magic. The Manitous are, like, white people Manitous, which will come
damn straight, and that's the way we're going to win.
Yeah.
White people for the win.
Misquamaka starts separating the circle and then starting to cause some chaos in the hospital, including the entire floor becoming ice. Like, it looks like a cave on Hoth. Like, Tony Curtis gets out of an elevator and it's like he's in an ice cave, including the receptionist is now frozen.
Yeah.
And like a very obvious dummy, but is frozen there. The Manitou attacks, causing Tony Curtis to fly back over the desk, killing that woman. Like, she was probably already frozen.
Her head gets decapitated and thrown through a window.
And flies through a window. It's beautiful.
It's amazing. We also skipped, right before this, Dr. Hughes gets his hand bitten by a telepathic tree lizard demon.
That's right.
And that's not even the amazing part. I mean, that is amazing. But the amazing part is they're like, quick, get him to his office. I'm going to need some supplies to help him, get these wounds sutured. They're in a hospital. Why are they taking him to his office?
Yeah, I don't know.
Literally any other room.
It would have been fine.
They're in a fucking hospital.
Yeah.
Why are you going to his? I was fucking. I mean, I get this movie is not well written, but that was the most baffling decision I've ever seen in a film.
Know. Yeah, I guess it's gotta when it's a magical lizard bite, and the fact that like he transforms into a lizard for a little bit is so not weird in this movie that I forgot about.
Sure.
It. Like, that should be a bigger deal. Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's got to be in his safe space for it to be okay, and he likes his office.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
When they're fighting the Manitou in the ice thing, John Singing Rock, there's Manitou like comes out, he's doing some damage to him, and then Tony Curtis throws a typewriter at him, which explodes. And I don't mean like it just like falls apart, like it like Lethal Weapon style, like ball of flame explodes. And the Manitou's like, and fades back into the darkness. We find out later the cause of that was the typewriter's Manitou. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't, that's all you need to know.
Which gives them the idea that, hey, if we take the Manitou from all of the computers in this place, all the electronic stuff, and focus it using our white powers on this dirty, dirty native spirit, we can win and then colonize this hospital again.
Yes.
And, before we get to the final battle, there's a really cool earthquake sequence that I'm not entirely sure what happens, but man, there's a good earthquake rig.
Yes. Yeah, there is. Yeah. It was a nice little thing because it's like the power of the Manitou is growing and it's affecting the entire hospital now.
Yeah. So, they decided that they're going to do all the electricity Manitou versus Quetzalcoatl Manitou.
Yeah.
And
all that can be controlled by the fancy computer in his office that we brought up.
Yes.
Earlier.
Yes. Chekhov's wall computer comes back into play. And they go back in the room, and the room is now in space using Satan's imaginary powers.
Yes, they open the door, and it's space. And her bed is still there.
Yes, there's a dwarf Manitou
floating in the distance. Dwarf Manitou in space.
Yes, with Satan. John Singing Rock fails at summoning the spirits of the White Devil machinery, and Tony Curtis goes, "Hey, hold on a second here, Squanto. I'll figure this out for you." And he goes, "White power!" And he gets all the well. You know what? That probably came out a little wrong. And yeah, he transfers all of the white power into Karen, who's lying on the bed, and she says, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show my tits and then shoot the Satan with lasers." Mm-hmm. And so she shows them titties and just starts shooting white power electricity lasers at.
Yeah, that basically, because the Manitou is trying to basically summon a great old one, which is represented by like a blurry eye, glaucoma or something. But John Singing Rock says that, yeah, computers are white people magic. I can't control the Manitous. Tony Scott goes in and yells as Tony Curtis goes in and yells like he does throughout this movie.
Yeah, Tony Scott yells, runs outside, jumps off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah. Karen gets imbued with this power. So Native American and evil spirits are defeated by white women posting, by white women using computers. So next time your mom sends you a Minions meme, be thankful because she probably just slaughtered a demon to get that done.
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is thank God for colonization.
And the thing is, it's not just like, aha, I have this power, zap, blow up. This goes on for a while. There are a bunch of lasers shot, and it just kind of keeps, and like, it'll just cut to her face being like, I got power, zap, zap. And then it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah. And that's the end. He sends John home and he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I got you some tobacco." And he's like, "Hey, thanks, man. I like tobacco." And that was their.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, but here's the thing. The Manitou can come back, remember?" And he's like, "Oh shit, he can." And then inexplicably, blue text over the screen saying,
"Fact
in Tokyo." Fact, in Tokyo in 1969, a kid grew a tumor that turned into a Manitou. But this movie takes place in the 70s. Why did...
Fact.
Why was that... Why was it a decade before?
Based on a true story.
But why didn't this say like 89?
I don't know.
I'm so confused.
I think it was just a way to be like, you think this movie was dumb, guess what? It happened.
Yeah.
I also like, though, that, like, the woman this was all happening to and then got godlike powers. No, don't worry about her. She's fine. Shh. We need to concentrate on these two men and what they're up to.
The choice of her tits being out was so fucking weird because they were also, like, in shadow. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's this combination of gratuitous boob shot and also you don't show her boobs. It's such a fucking weird choice.
You know what you call that? Art.
That's the problem. I don't really know. I don't know enough about no art. All I know is that when I look at pornography and I know what it looks like and I like it.
And I want to see more of it.
Yeah.
That is such a perfectly strange ending to this movie. The fact this happened. Suck it, libs. Retweet if this sounds true. I love it. This movie is wild. And I don't even remember how I stumbled on it in the first place, how I even came upon it, but I watched it earlier this year and thought that you needed to see it because of just the tarot stuff and figured this would be a fun way to sort of close out the spooky season.
Yes. Closing out the spooky season in early November.
Yep.
But, we had a weird year where we only had 2 posting days in October or whatever. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed this movie a lot. It's not like good at all.
No.
But it is very charming.
It's very
other than a few kind of dull spots. It's super watchable. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. If you can deal with the wild racism that happens throughout it, it's ridiculous. I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, it really picks up the last 40 minutes where the action really happens. But there's enough kind of goofy stuff in the first 30 that works too.
On the racism point, there's a point I wanted to bring up earlier. So what would have made this movie more interesting, so of course they didn't do it, is Burgess Meredith explains that the language that they're speaking is from this a language group that died out 400 years ago before the white people arrived. Mm-hmm. Why would you not add some drama and have them have been genocided by the whites?
Because that would be...
Like, why go out of the way to explain, oh, no, this wasn't our fault? Like, I mean, no, why? Because this movie's racist.
Right.
But it's like they went out of their way to do it.
I mean, when the movie is solved... I mean, it made me think, honestly, because I watched it again recently, it made me think of Suburban Sasquatch, where, no, Native American woman, you're not doing it right. Let me shoot the magical bow at the Sasquatch.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just, it's got to be white dudes save the day.
Well, God bless Tony Curtis. And God bless the Manitou. John.
Yes.
Do you have anything to recommend to the audience to watch?
Well, we posted me doing a little roundup of stuff I've watched on our Patreon, and in it I referenced this Barbarian on HBO Max currently. It is a horror movie. It is so much fun, and I don't want to say too much about it. I go into it a little bit more on the podcast thing I recorded there, but it's great. It's done by one of the guys from The Whitest Kids You Know, that sketch group. I didn't realize that till later. Yeah. It was a really fun movie. I highly recommend that. And then I got around to watching Incantation, which was on still on Netflix, which is a Chinese like found footage sort of horror movie that was also really, really good for much different reasons than Barbarian. Barbarian is so much more fun. Incantation is a lot more sort of a serious tone. Both were great. Highly recommend both of those.
Yes. Go to patreon.com/Alex Bolin. Alex spelled with 2 X's, Bollen. Link on our website. And John's got two different Myers Talk with Me that came up.
Yeah, I might do another one. There are other things I feel like blabbing about, but whatever.
For now, there's 2. I would like to tell the audience about a thing I randomly stumbled upon on this little streaming service I like to call Amazon Prime. It's called The Devil's Hour, and it's a short 6-episode or whatever TV show starring Peter Capaldi, TV's Doctor Who, and some lady, and it's really fucking good. It goes almost exactly the way I didn't think it was going to go. It's, kind of surprising. I mean, not really fucking good. It's very enjoyable for something I've never heard of. Like, it was literally just, I like Peter Capaldi and I'm looking for something to watch. It really grabbed me. So, watch it.
Yeah, I saw the little poster for that. I saw the graphic for that when I was watching the Manitou, and I got curious. I'm glad to hear that it's good.
Yeah, it totally is. It's well worth watching.
I mean, I love him. I love Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, he's great in it. I don't know what I can say about it without giving too much away, so I'm just kind of leaving it as it was very good and watch it. But it's basically some crime stuff happens and people are trying to figure some stuff out. But like, I don't really, you can't go much more than that.
Well, I mean, the way, and it kind of looks like on the picture, it looks like he's almost like a Hannibal Lecter kind of like he's in jail, but a genius. Is that kind of what this is? Not necessarily that like that's the entire plot.
That is what the poster looks like.
Yeah.
I'll just leave that there.
All right. Okay. Ooh, that's exciting.
Just leave that there.
I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah, it's pretty good. John, what do you want to watch for next episode?
So all this Manitou stuff got me more interested in some sorcery. Magic being the bloodstream of the universe. And I would like to forget all that I know, or even that I think I know. And maybe watch a movie that requires my intuition. So why don't we watch Willow? Say the words, Willow!
Yeah, that sounds great. That's the only thing I remember from that movie. And Mad Mardigan. That's what I know.
Man, I thought Mad Mardigan was so cool. I'm curious what I'm going to think this time. Even though he's presented as a jackass in the movie, I was still like, yeah, but he's a cool jackass.
I remember him being freaking awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be a Willow TV show coming up on the Disney Plus there, so that's where we're watching this. So yes, join us in reliving the childhood of the 1980s by watching Willow, starring that guy from Leprechaun. Warwick Davis?
Yes, Warwick Davis. And Val Kilmer, Joanne Wally Kilmer, and a baby. There's a baby in there.
Kevin Pollak.
Billy Barty.
Yeah, Billy Barty, of course. I mean, who would forget Billy Barty? That go.
Oh, Phil Fondacaro.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, who would ever forget Phil Fondacaro? Yeah. All right. So we'll do that. We'll see you next time. Remember to join our Patreon, patreon.com/Alex Bolin. Link is on John Alex Hate Stuff. Follow us on Twitter @JawsPod and on Facebook, John Alex Hate Stuff. Bye.
Goodbye.